It's 105.5 WDHA here on the Jersey Magazine. I'm Jim Monaghan, and my guest, well, she's actually been a guest on my radio shows from time to time, going back to, I think the very first time was Father's Day 1990. And I asked you a series of questions, and I said, who has the scratchy face? And you came back and said, Daddy. So I've referred to her numerous times on the air as daughter number one, Courtney Monaghan. Good morning and welcome to the Jersey Magazine here at WDHA.
Hi, Dad. Thanks for having me.
One of the things, we're coming to the end of the year, and every time we get to the end of the year, we see all these new year, new me posts. And that's something Courtney, I should point out, is a wellness coach and does some other things as well that we'll get into. That is a phrase, new year, new me, that you really don't like. Why?
So I think the phrase new year, new me implies that there is something wrong with you as you are, that you need to change yourself to become better, to become valid, to become worthy of something. And you don't. Yes, as human beings, there's always room for us to grow and change and improve, but you have to have appreciation for where you are currently if you want to go anywhere. So by totally thinking that you need to change who you are, it kind of puts you in the mindset that there's something wrong with what you're doing right now. And so you can always strive for that best version, that next level version of you. Like I have goals for next year that are going to, change things for me, but it doesn't mean that what I'm doing now doesn't have value. So it's not new year, new you, it's new year, best you, if anything.
And how did you come upon that? Because a lot of us, we come to the end of a year and we say, well, next year I'm going to do this. Next year I'm going to not do that, or whatever it is. How did you come to that? I'm okay. I like who I am, but I can make myself a better version of me. How did you come upon that?
Yeah, so I am I'm a wellness coach, a health coach, but I teach yoga and I teach group fitness. And, I see a lot with my students and my clients. They always think that, there's a lot of negative self-talk that goes on when you're constantly thinking that you have to change yourself. And when you do that, when you're not appreciating where you are, it's hard to be grateful. It's hard to celebrate yourself. It's hard to be excited about the things that you're doing. And so I just watched this happen with the people that I work with. It was true for myself. And I kind of, finally got to this point of like, well, if we can't all appreciate whatever we're doing right now, we're never going to be happy with anything. So even that new version of you, you're not going to be happy with it if you couldn't find some appreciation for where you came from. And so it's all a mindset shift, and shifting mindset into a space of more positivity and appreciation is something that I do with all of my clients, whether they're working with me on health and nutrition, or they're running on a treadmill with me in one of my classes, or we're doing yoga together.
Now, you've always been athletic. I mean, you went, like everybody does, you played t-ball, then played softball. You were on various teams through elementary school, middle school, played 4 years of high school softball. When did the whole yoga thing happen for you and fitness instruction?
Yeah. So yoga didn't happen for me until I was in my 20s. I was working with a personal trainer at the time after grad school, and she encouraged me to do yoga just to stretch. I wasn't stretching enough for the intense kind of physical activity that I was doing. And it took me a while to find yoga that I actually liked. But then once I found the right place, the right instructors, it all kind of clicked for me. I was hooked, and I just knew I wanted other people to feel as good as I felt. And so I started teaching. I got trained and started teaching, I guess 3 years ago now.
Okay, and we should point out that my daughter, Courtney Monaghan's my guest this morning here on the Jersey Magazine, works in New England. You're up in the Boston, Massachusetts area, but you also do one-on-one stuff as well virtually, which we'll get into in a little bit. What have you found to be the best way? We talk about New Year, best you type of thing. What have you found the best way to set realistic fitness and nutrition goals? Because I think realistic is a big part of this, Court.
Yeah, it is. Being realistic is huge. And that doesn't mean that you need to limit yourself to be realistic, right? You can still shoot for the stars, but you have to ask yourself, whatever this goal is, this thing I'm going to do, am I still going to want to do it 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now? And if the answer to that is no, we have to kind of reimagine how you're thinking about it. A great example is, people always want to give up certain foods, right? They say like January 1st comes, like, I'm not eating dessert again. That's it. Cold turkey. I'm done. Well, is that going to work for you in 3 months when it's your birthday, or in 6 months when you go on vacation and you really want something, or when it's just like a Thursday night and you're like, hey, a chocolate chip cookie sounds good, but you told yourself you can't have it. Like, eventually you're going to say, screw it, you'll go off, you'll eat whatever, and just come back feeling worse. So you have to be realistic about what you're trying to do. Is it going to last long term? And are you going to be happy doing it? A lot of people, I feel like, set certain fitness goals, maybe around like, wanting to run a 5K or start going to spin class every day or lift heavier weights. And those things are all great. But if you don't like doing it, if you don't like to run, if you don't like to lift weights, if you don't like to ride a spin bike, that goal, that habit's not going to stick, because you're going to be like miserable. You're going to be miserable doing it. And there's a lot better ways to reach your goals and actually be happy in the process.
Well, you mentioned not liking running, and boy, I am exhibit A right there, but I have to start doing that. It's kind of the next step in my rehabilitation. I had total knee replacement back in October of last year. So every week it gets a little better with the stuff that I'm doing. And I did have a meeting with the doctor, the surgeon who did the operation a couple of weeks ago. And he said, start pushing yourself. And for me, starting to push myself is running. So if you see somebody stumbling around the high school track here in my town, that's probably me. But I mean, I've hated to run. I never, ever liked running. And yet, as someone who played baseball and softball for much of my adult life, I was in the outfield. And what do outfielders do? They run. So that's something that I just have to suck up and do. I don't have a choice.
So that's true. And sometimes that is the case, right? We all have to do things sometimes we don't want to do. But I would challenge you or anyone else who's in the same situation to think about, okay, but how can you make that an enjoyable experience? Do you try and do it with music on that you really love, right? Like, do you put on your favorite songs, the music that gets you going, and think about it less of like, I'm going for a run, and think of it like, okay, I'm going to listen to this playlist that I love for 30 minutes. And I just happen to be running while I do it. Maybe you go along your favorite trail or track. It's by the water, it's through a park, it's somewhere where you love to be. And so it becomes less about the physical act of running and more about spending time somewhere that gets you really excited. Like, I'm a lot more inclined to go for a run if I can do it by the beach, or I can do it around a pond. If I'm just out on the street running past houses, I don't like it either. But if I'm going to do it, I try to do it in a way that I'll enjoy the experience. And so that does get us through those days where maybe we just have to do something we don't want to do. And that extends to a lot of things. I talk about that with my clients who don't like to meal prep their food, but they're short on time. I'm like, well, put your favorite show on, put your favorite playlist on, make it fun so you can still do these things, check the box, get it done, and feel good about it.
And we're talking with daughter number one, my daughter Courtney, here this morning on the Jersey Magazine at 105.5 WDHA. I was saying before we came on, what do you do? And well, which job, Dad? Between yoga instructor and you're a wellness coach, and what are the other things you mentioned to me?
Yeah, so I teach yoga and yoga sculpt. I also lead yoga teacher trainings. I teach other people how to teach yoga. I coach group fitness classes, and then I own my own health and wellness coaching business.
So what's it like? Because you started this business in the middle of a pandemic. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, well, I got laid off at the beginning of the pandemic. So, and I am back. I'm back at my previous job that I'd been laid off from as well. But during that time, I had a lot of time to think. I had a lot of time to think about where I wanted to go personally and professionally, what I wanted my career to look like, and how I wanted to impact the people that I was working with. I ended up going back to school, which I never thought I would do again. I got certified as a health coach, and I knew I just wanted to bring more of that holistic approach of health and wellness to, the students that I was already working with in the yoga space. I started teaching some different fitness classes, and it just kind of grew from there. But I think the pandemic showed us there's There's a lot of opportunity out there, especially in the online space and in person as well, and kind of creating that like synergy between the two, especially when it comes to health and fitness. I think community is so important, and being able to foster that now in the online space, even for students who take my class real life. There's more ways for us to interact now virtually. And so that's a huge part of why I decided to take part in my business online.
And we were talking a few minutes ago about nutrition and fitness and sustainable habits, because I think that's the toughest for many people. They do go into a new year or a new quarter or whatever it happens to be with the best of intentions. And I think 28 days is what they say. If you want to form a habit, it takes you 28 days. I can exercise for 28 days, and on the 29th day, I can break that habit like that. How do we keep sustainable habits going?
Yeah, it is. It's like 21 to 28 days, something like that. You have to be connected to a deeper why. If it's just about checking the box off, right? Maybe you're doing some 30-day challenge and you just want to get it done. First of all, most likely you're doing things that aren't sustainable. Like some of these different diet and exercise plans out there that are crafted for just a couple of weeks. That's the intention. It's just a couple of weeks. And then you either need to start it over again, or you have to go look for the next thing. Doing things that are sustainable, again, it comes back to like, do you want to keep doing these things for months at a time? Are you excited by them? Are you happy doing them? And also really thinking about why is this thing important to you, right? Like, why is eating healthy important to you? Why is moving your body important to you? Is it so that you have less back pain, you have more energy to run around with your kids, you sleep better at night, you have less brain fog while you're working? Like, what's that deeper why that's encouraging you to keep doing this thing? Again, if it's just like to check a box, just to get it done, or just to say you're doing it, it's not gonna stick.
You're very active on your Instagram page talking about nutrition. What was that journey like for you personally?
Yeah, nutrition it's been an up and down thing for me. I had a lot to learn, as many of us do. There's a lot of information out there, especially online now, about what to eat, why to eat certain things, how to do it. And I started working with a dietitian again at the beginning of the pandemic. It's probably a whole separate topic, but I had a lot going on with my gut health. And I learned a lot about nutrition through that. And then, of course, going back to school, but just learning how to tune in, listen to our body, is learning how to eat in ways that make us feel really good. But again, that we also enjoy. If you don't like kale, don't eat kale. I'm not the health coach that like tells you to go out there and eat kale if you think it's disgusting, right? Like, again, you have to find the things that you enjoy, eat in ways that feel good for you, and ultimately that are going to give you the fuel that your body needs. And just kind of understanding what that balance is between nourishment, eating for your body, and also nourishing to like feed your soul.
And there's all kinds of different things that you can eat. There's different supplements and things like that. How do you sort through that?
Yeah, I think, when it comes to diets, again, you got to think about, is this realistic? Is it going to be sustainable? Am I going to enjoy doing it? And am I eating enough? A lot of people are quick to say, I got to eat less, less, less. I'd argue in some cases, it's got to be more, and more of the right things. When it comes to supplements, again, there's like a lot of information floating out there. The supplement industry is not FDA regulated. So my biggest tip is just buy quality. If you're going to invest in them, invest in them. Don't just buy the cheapest thing that's at the grocery store or at CVS. Know where your stuff is coming from. If you can, work with somebody like a dietitian, a nutritionist, a health coach, to find out what sources they use. I partner with an amazing company called Gut Personal, and there's a link in my Instagram bio to check out their page, but it's all customized supplements for what you need, your gut health, your levels of stress, how you're sleeping, how you move your body, so that you can feel your best every day. Because a lot of us do need a little extra support, but it looks different for everybody. And that quality is like just the biggest thing that I can stress.
And we're talking with Courtney Monaghan. Yes, my daughter number one, as I refer to her so often on the air here at 105.5 WDHA on the Jersey Magazine. Courtney, you mentioned your Instagram account. That's the best way for our listeners to get in touch with you, whether they want some advice on all of this, or maybe even to set up a one-on-one session with you. What is that?
Yeah, so my Instagram handle is at Courtney Monaghan, 2 underscores at the end. Surprisingly, there's a lot of other Courtney Monaghans out there on Instagram.
And Courtney is spelled the traditional way, Courtney, and Monaghan, put the G. And your grandmother always wanted to drop it. I told her I'd disown her if she did. So it's Monaghan with not 1, but 2 underscores at the end. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you and my listeners, well, I tell them all the time, but I'll tell you and the audience at the same time how proud I am of you, and watching you grow as a person is just wonderful. So thank you for that. And best of luck with all of this going forward.
Thanks, Dad. Proud of you too.